Max Verstappen and Ben Sulayem have made the headlines in the past race in Jeddah, where it was visible that the Dutchman was quite upset when the president of the FIA entered an altercation with Max at the end of the race. This is just another step in the wrong direction for the most controversial president in the history of the FIA. And the question that we have in our heads right now is, should Ben Sulayem leave his position amid all of the negativity aimed towards him? There are definitely not enough words to describe the narrative that's been preached against Mohammed Ben Sulayem. But it's not for all the wrong reasons either. We've seen that he doesn't have the respect of the top superstars of the sport, including Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, and in Jeddah that was quite visible. Ben Sulayem has tried time and time again to be seen while walking behind the drivers during their press conference, and at a certain point he tried to forcefully have a talk with Lewis Hamilton, to which the 7-time world champion didn't pay any attention at all and continued to walk away. But now, amid all of the controversy, the chat that the president of the FIA had with Max Verstappen after the end of the Jeddah Grand Prix is something that sparked a lot of talk as to whether or not Ben Sulayem is just trying too hard to keep his seat and position alive. There were rumours that he told Verstappen that he's forbidden to talk negatively about the controversial opening lap in Jeddah, in which the Red Bull driver received a 5-second penalty. However, it was visible that Max didn't like the conversation at all, and therefore he made sure to express his feelings loud and clear towards Ben Sulayem. On the other hand, what we can see is that not a lot of drivers are respecting the orders of the governing body when it comes to the swearing stance. The fact that this was a decision that wasn't supported by the entirety of the FIA goes to show that the president is not enjoying the full support of the members below him, and that was seen by the latest restructure and firing of personnel who weren't very happy with how he acted on this matter. Verstappen denied the rumours that he was disciplined by Ben Sulayem regarding the swearing on the radio on the first lap, but he didn't want to discuss it any further because he said it very clearly: the people cannot handle the truth. Furthermore, he went on to say that he doesn't want to speak about this matter for one reason only: he's going to get penalised because of the harsh politics of the FIA, and this might be one more reason why the time of the president is now as good as counted. Now, what needs to be mentioned as the pinnacle of this topic is that there is a meeting that should revolve around the presidency of the FIA. Everything that's happening right now has a very negative impact on Ben Sulayem's chances of staying president of the FIA, but instead of him being re-elected as he hopes, he's likely to be replaced. In order for us to understand a bit more about the internal turmoil in the FIA, we need to hear from some senior figures, like the ex-vice president of the governing body, Robert Reid. He is not the first member to depart his role as of late, and it's highly likely that others will follow due to the increased instability in the team. There have been reports that Ben Sulayem is firing people, or at least putting them in a position to quit because of their beliefs. So if this turns out to be the reality, then we would need to look at a massive revolution within the inner circles of the FIA. There have been quite direct insults to the sport, and when there was a direct offer from the Saudi Arabian fund to buy the sport's rights from Liberty Media, which were denied immediately by the USA company, Ben Sulayem said that F1 shouldn't overestimate itself. This hurt the potential partnerships that are yet to come, and it wasn't accepted well at all. But as I mentioned earlier in this video, it's just another dark spot in the reign of Ben Sulayem. Keep in mind that there was an event in which two very important members of the FIA were barred from attending a key World Motorsport Council meeting because they refused to sign a non-disclosure agreement, or an NDA, which is something that Ben Sulayem has pushed for heavily. One of them was the ex-vice president of Robert Reid, while the other one was David Richards, the chairman of Motorsport UK. It was a very important meeting because one of the top talking points was the mandatory 2-stop rule in Monaco, which is now official. But nevertheless, making attending members sign an NDA makes the people question where the FIA interests lie. Of course, this is very good for the confidentiality of the meeting, but the reign of the FIA is now getting worse and worse, and refusing transparency in their work is something that's been called out by the GPDA, or more precisely, George Russell. When it comes to Robert Reid, the reason why he left the FIA is quite clear: he just didn't agree with the decision-making process. His belief is that the FIA is currently fighting for standards that he doesn't stand for, which makes racing less competitive and adds a lot of politics to the sport without any particular reason. Of course, all of these resignations and the internal reshuffle will be a huge argument against Ben Sulayem headed into the meeting that is supposed to win the votes of the most important members of the commission, but he's afraid that he might lose the job because of these situations. His belief is that apart from Verstappen, he's one of the most hated figures among the British media, which is why the narrative around his presidency is so negative. But again, as I mentioned earlier in this video, it doesn't actually help him that the GPDA is speaking very negatively against his reign as well. George Russell asked for a lot more transparency from the FIA, as he went on to say that the drivers and the members of the GPDA are not happy that they have absolutely no idea what's going on behind closed doors. Elaborating further on this, Russell said, "Unfortunately, every time we hear some news from that side of the sport, the FIA's, it's not really a big surprise, so it's clearly a real shame to see someone who's very well respected within the sport and has been there for so long. As we keep saying, what's next? Yeah, it's a shame to see, and hopefully we can get more stability sooner rather than later." What's even more important is that Russell feels that the drivers, the ones who are putting their lives at risk, doing what they're doing week in and week out, once they step into the cars, do not have a say in this saga. Everyone is aware that it's going in the wrong direction. That's not the question. The question is whether or not someone can do something in order to prevent it from turning into a bigger disaster. Talking about their lack of power and what he feels should change immediately, Russell said, "Ultimately, it's getting to a point now where these things are happening so often. As drivers, we all tried to get involved in the past, didn't make much headway, and things seem to be continuously going in an unstable direction. I've got to be honest, we're getting to a point now where our actions are having little impact with those guys, and we've got to trust in the teams and Formula One to work with the FIA to come to a common ground, and if we can help, we want to be there, but often it just seems as if things are going in one direction. All of the drivers have 100% trust and faith in Stefano Domenicali and F1, and we know that they will work together with the teams. It's in all of our interest to make something come of all of this and see stability and collaboration moving forward. We just want collaboration. It doesn't make any sense to be fighting on these topics." And here we are, having the president of the FIA treating the governing body as if it's its own yard. So it would be very nice for everyone to remind him that there is a lot behind closed curtains. Yes, there is an authority that needs to be respected, but if you turn that authority into a regime, then it's easy for the drivers to get angry and dissatisfied with the leadership of the FIA. Even the latest change of the regulations receiving a lot of backlash is not helping the governing body at all, as calls for the V10s to return have sparked false hope for the future of the sport. And in order to close things in a very modern fashion, Russell said that this is a topic that's been going on for quite a long period now, 6 months to be precise, and the more airtime he gives it, the more undeserved attention it gets. Either way, Ben Sulayem understands that his presidency is under threat, and regardless of whether or not he accepts it, the situation stands as it is. So with all of this in mind, have we seen the final scene for the controversial president? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do that, make sure to click on the video that'll be appearing on your screen right now.